Good morning, and thank you for checking out this video. Today, I want to talk about gig bags, specifically more protective, kind of mid to higher tier gig bags for electric bass. And I also want to add a section on how I've adopted the use of a standard electric bass gig bag for short scale basses. I have always preferred gig bags over hard shell cases. And I think the biggest factor in that decision for me is I've never really owned a large car. So space is always at a bit of a premium. So I wanted to get the best protection for my instruments I could in the smallest, most portable package. Where this video I think may be helpful for those viewers with short scale basses is depending on the length of your short scale bass, it will not always fit in electric guitar bags. For instance, my Fender Mustang, from the top of the headstock to the bottom strap pin, measures 42.5 inches. My F-bass short scale has a total length from the at the longest dimensions of 41.5 inches. My landing fretless is the longest of the lot, and that comes in at 43.25 inches. And my Atelier measures 41.5 inches, strap pin, the top of the headstock. Now, if you look at the overall dimensions of an electric guitar gig bag, they range anywhere from 39 to 42 inches exterior dimension. But the more important dimension to really look at, which unfortunately is not always readily available and advertised online, is the interior dimension. So if you look at the picture I'm going to put up here, the advertised exterior dimension is about 41 inches and change, which likely means the interior dimension is considerably smaller than that. Some of the larger electric gig bags, such as this one from Mono, has an advertised interior dimension of 41.5 inches, which means on paper, my Mustang likely won't fit. My F-bass and Atelier Z might fit. But what I will say from real world experience, having actually put some of my basses in gig bags I've seen on the showroom floor of guitar stores, my Mustang bass actually did not fit the way I wanted it to, with a nice comfortable cushion around the headstock in a Mono M80 bag. So I think it is really important that you actually check the physical fit of your instrument in the bag before you buy it. There's one more consideration that I want to make you aware of when trying to adopt a short scale bass into a standard scale electric bass bag, and that is the positioning of the neck cradle. I'm going to put up a picture here where there is a picture of a standard scale jazz bass, and then right next to it, a short scale Mustang JMJ model. Now, if you look at the shape and the position of the headstock of the JMJ Mustang, that neck cradle, unless it is movable, will likely get in the way and might not have the bass sit the way you want it to in the gig bag. Now, there are some ways around this. You can put more bumpers and padding at the bottom, effectively shifting the bass towards the top. That's certainly one way of going about it. But I think that's a big factor you need to keep in mind when shopping for a gig bag for a short scale bass. I have 9 criteria I look for when I'm shopping for a mid to high end gig bag for my electric basses. The first criteria is whether or not there is a removable or adjustable neck cradle. As I alluded to earlier, depending on the length of your bass, where the headstock sits, you want to be able to have it sit comfortably in the bag without it being twisted or being laid at strange angles inside the bag. If you look at the neck cradle from the Mono M80 bag, I've actually removed the neck cradle. It was sewn in and stitched in. But if you look at the height of it, and we'll use the measuring tape here, The height of this neck cradle measures slightly over 2 inches. What I found is the actual distance between the dimensions of the body, of the heel, and the distance of the neck is about 1.25 inches. So having a neck cradle that is considerably taller than that, what I found is it actually forces the whole guitar to sit at a bit of an angle inside the case. Again, this really depends on the dimensions and the thickness of the body. But for me, every bass I ever put in my M80 mono bag always sat at a bit of an angle. Now, I think I understand why they designed it that way. So for instruments with a tilt back headstock, that may actually work okay. But most of my instruments have Fender style headstocks that where they don't tilt back, but they just kind of dip down a bit. And what I found with the mono bag in particular is with that at an angle and the headstock kind of doing that, when I zipped the bag closed, it actually put more pressure on the headstock than I was comfortable with, which resulted in the whole bass just sitting in the bag in a bit of a funny angle. So I ended up taking this off, but I'll get into this more specifically when I talk about the mono bag. Specifically for short scale basses, I don't want the headstock to be resting at a funny angle on the neck cradle either. So ideally, I want to be able to either adjust the up and down position or be able to remove it completely to have the most versatile fit for any bass. Criteria number 2 is I need all of my gig bags to be relatively kid-proofed. At time of filming, I have 3 boys, aged 8, 4, and 2. And when all 3 of them were younger, and especially my 2-year-old now, they really liked playing with the zippers. They, grab on to the exterior material. Sometimes, due to the nature of kids being kids, they pull it down off the wall. So I really need adequate neck protection and body protection in a gig bag that does make it relatively kid-proof. And I always like the joke that if you are ever wondering whether or not your gear is tour and roadworthy, let your kids have at it, and if it survives your children, chances are that gear will survive the road. I typically look for bags with a minimum of 20 millimeters of padding that goes all the way around. I think 30 millimeters is even better, but as the more padding and thicker padding you get, the bulkier it becomes and the heavier it becomes. So it's a bit of a balance there. The third criteria I have is the exterior material has to be wipeable. I need to be able to wipe it down. Where this became relevant for me is I live in Winnipeg, where it's winter 6 to 7 months of the year. And as a result of the dry cold, I'm running an ultrasonic humidifier in my studio space round the clock so my instruments don't dry out. And for those of you viewers who've ever run an ultrasonic humidifier, probably most of you will have realized that it leaves a layer of fine white dust on everything, every surface, laptops, drum heads, speaker grills, basses, electronics, and bags. And I like to keep things clean and tidy, and that layer of humidifier dust really bugs me. So I need to be able, with a wet rag, to be able to wipe it all down and keep it clean. So that's a bit of a kind of a humidifier specific reason, but also I like to, after traveling with my gig bags, be able to wipe down dirt and grime from the venue, from my van, and just any other kind of dirt and mud splatter from it. I want to be able to wipe it down without damaging the exterior material. Criteria number 4, I need my gig bags to be relatively weatherproof. And I use the word relatively there because I think any gig bag, in any case, if you are standing out in downpour rain, nothing's going to keep your instrument completely fully dry, unfortunately. And I think in those applications, you should consider getting a truly waterproof poncho type cover for your gig bag and then wrapping it tight with bungee cords to protect everything inside. I know a lot of gig bags advertise being completely waterproof, but unfortunately, even the highest end of gig bags, I know local players who have been unfortunately caught in the rain, and water still finds a way to get in through the zippers and around some of the stitching. Having said that, I want to be able to still protect my instrument and investment inside with just quick runs from the van into the venue. I need it to be kind of protective from light snowfall. So relatively waterproof is criteria number 4. Criteria number 5 is I try to look for gig bags with a rigid side or semi-rigid sides. And what I mean by that is I'm looking for a bag that has good lateral side protection for my neck, because how I travel, most of my bags are always being stored sideways. And I'll put up a picture of here how I typically load up the trunk of my van. So I like having that extra insurance and that extra protection along the sides of the bag. Criteria number 6. I need a gig bag to be relatively lightweight, but most importantly, I need it to balance symmetrically and be comfortable on my back with dual backpack straps. Why is that relevant for me? Well, typically I travel with, based on my back, I'll have a flight case type carrying case for my pedal board, my cables, music, and other things in my right hand. And then I almost always have my cane in my left hand. So when walking from my van into where I'm playing, I want to try to be as balanced and as symmetrical as I can be. So I typically look for dual backpack straps and for the gig bag to sit in line with my spine, not off to off at an angle such as a single strap gig bag might do. And that's just for me. I need to stay as balanced as I can so I don't fall over on the way to the gig. Criteria number 7. I'm looking for gig bags with near indestructible zippers. And for me, there are 2 reasons for this. The zipper is the part that gets the most mileage. So when you're opening and closing the gig bag, that's the part that moves the most. And for a lot of, if not all of the gig bags I own, the zipper is also the part that holds it all together. So short of tying luggage straps around your gig bag to prevent an accidental opening, you really need a solid zipper where you can rest assured that the bag will not open when you don't want it to. Going back to my kids, my 2-year-old really likes zipping my gig bags up and down. He has a ball of a time doing that. So that puts extra mileage on the zippers for me. So I really need those zippers to be rock solid. Criteria number 8, when I'm not traveling with my flight case and a pedal board, and maybe I just want to bring something smaller, it would be really nice if a gig bag had enough room to carry things like extra tuner or smaller pedal board, your own DI box, spare strings, a little toolkit with all the Allen wrenches and screwdrivers you may need. And for me, I would also like a pouch that's deep enough and tall enough to hold my footrest. So I rarely play standing up. I play sitting down a lot. So I like having this foldable footrest for me to put my right foot on. It does fold up pretty flat, but it's also pretty long lengthwise. So ideally I would like a pouch where this would fit into if I'm not carrying my flight case. Now, the last criteria I have, and this is a bit of a bonus round, it's not essential because I'm very much function over form, but if it looks nice, then you get the extra bonus point there. I'm hoping it will be helpful if I go through some of the cases that I have both owned previously and currently own, and we can talk about the pros and cons of some of them based on those criteria points that I've just mentioned.